In the following clips, I will be introducing and confirming Gabe Zickerman's views on what is now known as gamification. Gabe Zickerman is the world's foremost expert and public speaker on the subject of gamification.
These are 5 things that recur in all very successful video games. And it also is connected to a constant and exponential increase in learning. Video games fundamentally present a continuous process of learning to users. They don't just learn for a little while and then stop. They're constantly evolving and moving forward. It may, in fact, help us to explain the Flynn effect, finally. And the Flynn effect, for those of you who don't know, is the pattern that human intelligence is actually rising over time. So if we look at the history of IQ, people, in fact, are getting smarter. In the US right now, average IQ is rising at 0.36 points of IQ per year. In other countries, though, particularly where we're looking at fluid IQ, fluid intelligence, the number is increasing, and the rate of fluid intelligence increase is increasing starting in the 1990s. Coincidence? I think not.
Zickerman talks about the 5 qualities necessary to increase intelligence: seek novelty, challenge yourself, think creatively, do things the hard way, and network. All of these qualities are actively implemented when playing video games. For instance, when playing video games, you are actively exploring different activities from one level to the next. The player is constantly challenging themselves with each new encounter or situation. The player will have to be creative with new strategies or methods in order to overcome the challenges represented by the game. Oftentimes, doing things the hard way is the only way for a player to proceed throughout the game, although with experience, shortcuts or easier methods are often discovered. In most multiplayer games, the player will have to network with other players in order to progress at a quicker rate or learn new information from other sources. All 5 qualities necessary for learning are present within almost any video game.
And Anant Pai replaced the standard curriculum with a video game-based curriculum of his own design, separating the kids into learning styles and giving them Nintendo DSs and computer games, everything off the shelf, nothing custom, giving them Nintendo DSs and computer games that were both individual and social to play, that taught them math and language. And let me tell you what happened. In the space of 18 weeks, Mr. Pai's class went from a below 3rd grade level in reading and math to a mid 4th grade level in reading and math in 18 weeks of a game-based curriculum. And more importantly, when you talk to the children, when they're interviewed on television, even away from Mr. Pai, when they're interviewed on television, they say 2 things over and over again that helps them learn in his class. Learning is fun, and learning is multiplayer. Whether they use those exact words or not, they say learning is fun and learning is multiplayer. And this is the key to making that experience really successful for kids.
In an article written by college professor Aaron Delwich, he noted that after teaching 2 courses at Trinity University over ethnography of online games and game design for the web using massively multiplayer online games EverQuest and Second Life, that students preferred to play games with others, video games were a safe learning environment, and that accessibility is crucial to learning.
It's also true, though, that we need to talk about the relationship between kids and violence in games. Study after study very clearly tells you that violent games do not make children violent. We also must acknowledge, however, if you have a child predisposed to violence, violent games may help make them a better violent child. If they train kids to do other things, they also will train that, and we need to accept that, and we need to start understanding the connection between games as a form of training. We can't blanket say, they don't affect kids. It's not true.
In a study conducted at the Center for the Study of Violence, 100 psychology students were selected to participate in an experiment to discover the effects of violent, prosocial, and neutral video games on the students' emotions and behaviors. The study found that students who played violent video games experienced increased levels of aggression, but that students who were more inclined to aggressive behaviors were more likely to report on feelings of aggression, and that both prosocial and neutral video games resulted in decreased levels of total state hostility and increased feelings of positivity.
I like to call the group of people who are really driving this trend forward Generation G. And there are 126 million millennials in the United States and the EU, plus younger kids who we can't yet count, that form Generation G. And what Generation G is different, in the way that Generation G is different from X, Y, and all the different generations that we may belong to, is that video games are the primary form of entertainment that Generation G is consuming. It is their primary form of entertainment.
Video games may or may not be the answer to many professors left thinking, how can I get my students more involved? However, the evidence supports the possibility certainly being worth exploring. I don't expect the way in which the world learns to change overnight, but I do hope to see more development on that front soon. The switch to a more three-dimensional learning environment could potentially lead to more involvement and excitement than professors are currently experiencing from the students of today.